Today, violence in Minneapolis for a second night, but don't worry. They're just peaceful protests. Also, the FDA and the CDC call for a suspension of the Johnson & Johnson COVID-19 vaccine. We've got a lot coming up, and it starts right now. Welcome to the news and why it matters. I'm Sarah Gonzalez, today joined by America's favorite cowboy and future governor of Texas, Chad Prather, also host of the Chad Prather Show, which you can find on BlazeTV.
That's right.
That was a mouthful.
That is a mouthful.
I keep adding your titles.
I've already experienced cancel culture. They took me off of the speaking roster tomorrow at the Capitol, so I'm going to throw my own little party tomorrow at noon in Austin. Come see me.
Oh.
Whiskey, Tango, Foxtrot, Ice House. What a great name for a bar.
I love it. Okay, well, make sure that you catch that. Also joined by, he is on his maiden voyage on the show, Daniel Horowitz, of course, of BlazeTV as well. I'm so excited that you're finally here.
This is where it all happens. I'm finally down here in the free land of Texas.
Yeah, how does it feel?
Well,
because you're from up north, right?
Only 70% wear Chinese face burqas. Where I am, the Chinese face burqa is the state flower in the state of Maryland.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. I have a feeling you may have a little bit to say about some of those topics that we have planned for today. All right, so Minneapolis, of course, there was more violence, second night in a row, in also surrounding neighborhoods because of the shooting death of Daunte Wright. Now, I would like to say, as we talk about this, neither of you were here yesterday, obviously, but yesterday, as of the time of the taping, when we discussed this, they were talking about officer this, officer that. They had not yet released the gender, which they shortly released, of course, after we had taped the show. So everyone was like, it's a she, not a he. Well, we know that now. Thank you very much. So now we know who the officer was, what the gender was, although I don't know what she identified as yesterday or last week, so who knows. But, apologies for that, now you understand. But the local Minneapolis media outlet KSTP reported just this morning that 40 people were arrested overnight following of course, the 7 p.m. curfew. I don't think that worked out very well. That it was, of course, to prevent rioting and looting. And we still see here's a Dollar Tree, a picture of a Dollar Tree for those of you who are watching on YouTube or BlazeTV or Facebook. Nothing says justice like crappy toys made from China. Yeah. I got to tell you, nothing says justice like that.
This is, it's one more lap to nowhere, really. It's the futility of all of this stuff and the nonsense. Look, we mourn the loss of anybody. Anytime a police officer has to discharge a weapon and it results in injury or loss of life in this situation, it's a sad situation. It's sad for everybody involved. It's sad for the city. Now we've got to do this all over again. And to make this thing about race or whatever, it's such a it just adds to the tragedy.
Especially after you watch the video, right? Because clearly, it seems to be that she thought she had her taser in the heat of the moment. Yeah. As we talked about yesterday.
You add a little bit of fear and you add a little bit of adrenaline. That's not a good combination to have in this situation. But let's face it, Daunte Wright, who was half white, let's remember, which doesn't matter to the rioters or to the looters. Those aren't the kind of things that they take into account before they start throwing bricks through windows and shooting at National Guards members. It's a sad situation. It's sad all the way around. And the problem is just get ready, because this is the norm now. This will always be this way. There is no fixing this. There's no putting that genie back in the bottle. This will always be that way. So this is going to become white noise the further we go with it.
Well, thank you for that dose of optimism.
Yeah, well, China's militarizing space right now. We could get into that too, but right now in Minnesota,
it's the new 15 days to flatten the curve. Yeah. Whereas March 16th, we took out of that genie, we took that out of the bottle, the notion that government could suspend your rights because you just shout public health in a crowded theater. May 25th was the second revolution. That was when we said that if you have racial justice, you could riot and riot and riot. We've had rioting before, but after that first night it gets out of control, they clamp down. Yeah. That is when we said you could just go all out. Yeah. So I think, to speak to your point, that is never going to end. And look, let's face it, this stuff happens all the time. There's white individuals that get shot, there's mistakes, there's lawful interactions, but I think the point everyone's missing about this is that why are police dealing with situations more often where they're either running or fighting?
Yeah.
A, because we have more criminals out on the streets because we don't lock up anyone anymore. And B, they don't fear them anymore. They don't fear them. So the more you have that, the more you're going to have volatile interactions with police. Most of them, the cops act correctly. Sometimes they even use underwhelming force, and we never hear about those.
Right.
And you'll have, statistically, more examples, but small percentage where they make mistakes.
Yeah. And I think, too, one of your points, Daniel, the mayor and city council of Brooklyn Center, Minnesota, of course, where this took place, have made some changes already because the mayor, Mike Elliott, announced just yesterday evening that he had commandeered the city's police department because the city manager, Kurt Bogany, promised that the officer involved in the shooting would be given due process. So these are controversial things to say these days. Due process.
Lost their job for using the phrase due process.
Yes, right. So now they've commandeered the entire job because you're not allowed to say an officer involved in a shooting deserves due process, which, I'm sure that will only attract the best of the best of the best to go into the police force from here on out when they see that they will not even be protected by their own city.
And then, of course, Obama comes out and says we have to reimagine policing in the United States. I can't imagine anyone wanting that job, wanting to do that job, signing up to put a badge on and kiss their family goodbye at the beginning of a shift and just pray they get to come home at the end of it. They have to deal with this kind of nonsense of political correctness and to use a phrase like due process and you lose your job. This is insanity to the nth degree. The world's so upside down right now. If they would have taken this officer, who, by the way, was a veteran of 26 years, if they had taken her out and executed her right there on the street, they would have still rioted, they would have still looted, they would still have done the whole thing, because you're dealing with a mindset here that this is what you do in a situation like this. Now you plaster their name all over everything. We saw it in that screenshot a minute ago. You plaster the name, you spray paint it everywhere, that you turn them into martyrs. And as sad as it is, it solves nothing.
Think about this, Chad. How would it look if we offered them the January 6th treatment? The standard to which we arrested and held without possibility of bail the people involved with January 6th. I mean, you're talking about the majority of them got charged with nothing more than trespassing public property, by the way. If you would apply that standard last night, it would be a lot more than 40 people arrested.
Yeah.
It's a great point.
I mean, it would be 400, 4,000.
And they'd be tracking them down 3 months from now, triangulating their phones and everything else.
They're looking there on the cameras and, all the private property. Will they get their due process? All those business owners, will they get justice? No, I mean, and that's really, I think, what we're learning, whether it's the COVID stuff, whether it's this, the double standard is the due process in America today. There is a two-tier justice system that if you are of the right ilk and have the right cause, then there's one standard, and then those of us that are on the outs with the system, we don't even get basic due process.
Well, it's us evil white people. Let me just say it. I mean, at the end of the day, we are the ones, we have to tolerate this, right? Because we've got so much white guilt that's out there, or at least that's what we're supposed to be projecting. And so it's just, the plight of the urban community and minorities who are having to deal with these evil police officers who are out hunting them down. This woman's been on the job for 26 years. She didn't get up that morning and put her belt on and say, I'm going to go out and kill a black man today.
Right.
And that's what everyone's missing. That they cannot put themselves in their situation. Obviously, cops, like anyone else, you could have a couple bad apples, you could have those that make mistakes.
Sure.
But
there's bad sex, Daniel. I don't turn any of it down. Okay? Right? I mean, to your point, you're right. 100%.
But almost every police interaction now is bad, and the reason is they are all on drugs. That's a whole other thing people don't realize. See, if you're a cop, even if you're a big, strong guy, there's one thing to clock someone and knock them out and, apprehend them that way, defeat them. There's another thing to evade. But to have to apprehend without harming them, without harming yourself, when they're high on PCP, that is not easy. And they are almost all, I don't know the story here, but I would bet he was on something. They're almost always on drugs when they're running and fighting. There's almost no good end to that.
Well, he was wanted for 2 different outstanding warrants. One was of marijuana possession. Okay, marijuana is not PCP. But it is illegal, and let's face it, it's illegal. So, and then the other was a firearms violation.
That's another big thing. I read on my show today that there was a judge in Brooklyn, and this happens every day, that let go a teen without bail that had five firearm charges. I don't mean just possession. I mean, he was caught pointing firearms at people, holding people up. You have hundreds of those people in every major metro area that 10, 15 years ago used to be behind bars. They're all out.
Right.
Guess what? The cops are running into them. Yeah. They're going to run. They're going to fight.
And back to the COVID point, it's a get out of jail free card. These days, now they're not holding anybody for any reason.
Yeah.
Except for January 6th.
I got pulled over yesterday. 2 police officers walked up to my window, and you know what I did? I complied.
You just don't have it in you.
Okay, fair. But just to play devil's advocate, I mean, you shouldn't die if you don't, like, just because you're not.
I was doing 50.
If you run away, I don't know that you should die.
I was doing 50 and a 30 in Nowhereville, Texas, and I didn't see the sign to slow down, come in there. I didn't.
Sure, you didn't. I'm sure you got off because of your white privilege.
I was burning through town at 50, and they pulled me over. And you know what? I rolled down my windows. I put my hands on the steering wheel. I had my ID out. I was ready to go. And you know what? I wasn't worried about them running my name or seeing if I was wanted or a warrant. I took my ticket. I'm going to pay the fine, and we're going to move on.
I think though that it's also fair to say that two things can be true at the same time, right? You should comply with police officers, but also we should make sure that the people who are on the force are not so, quick to
jumpy and quick to judge before. And you're right, it does happen. There's no question about it.
But it shouldn't.
It shouldn't happen.
We should hold them to that standard.
I've said for years, there's 2 jobs that need to be harder to get and better paid. One is a public school teacher, and another is a police officer. They should be harder to get. They should be a more difficult job to gain.
Right.
And to keep.
Yeah.
So not where you pull your firearm instead of a taser.
Right. So I think, both of those things probably can be true at the same time. But let me get your take on this, gentleman, before we have to go to break. Rashida Tlaib, one of the George of the squad. She said yesterday she called for the end of policing and incarceration. She said that law enforcement systems are so broken they can't be reformed. She tweeted out, "It wasn't an accident. Policing in our country is inherently and intentionally racist. Daunte Wright was met with aggression and violence. I am done with those who condone government-funded murder. No more policing, incarceration, and militarization. It can't be reformed." Daniel, I feel like this is going kind of to your point that, we may be in this mess with the police and the citizens not knowing who's going to get first because they're so afraid because there are all these criminals released onto the streets.
Amen. I mean, I actually like her. I'm a big fan of hers because she
really?
She blows the lid off. I've been
She said the quiet parts out loud.
I've been fighting this for 7 years, and it hasn't been cool even on our side. I've butted heads with some of our colleagues on this issue. Everyone's bought into this criminal justice reform. And I warn people, I said, dude, it ain't the COVID fascism. It's not the regulatory crimes that we're going to have alleviated in this country. They don't believe in incarceration. All these organizations funded by Soros, the prosecutors he's funding, the judges he funds, they fundamentally don't believe in incarceration. I talk about this every day. I write about this every day. You could spend all day on these stories where people have 5, 6 armed robberies, felonies. I'm not talking about simple drug possession. That's nonsense, the notion that we're locking up people for that. We're really not. The numbers are driven in large part by violent crime. And I said it when it was unpopular, but we have an under-incarceration problem in this country. And again, the more you let them out, guess what happens? The more black lives die. I have estimated that we probably incurred close to 2,000 excess black homicide victims last year over the 5-year average.
Wow.
That is the result of BLM. That's what Rashida wants to do. You want to abolish prison? Oh, prison doesn't look very pretty. You're right, it doesn't. But now you put that out on your streets. That's what your street's going to look like.
Yeah. Chad, last word on that.
That's hard to follow up on that. That's an interesting thing. I'm processing that. Honestly, that's strong.
Yeah,
that's a good word, Daniel.
It's frustrating to see all of this happen, and you feel like there's just nothing you can do. But I think it's important for everyone to make sure that you stay connected, especially at the local level, because I know we get a lot of people. Daniel, you're bringing a lot of really great points, but people are like, well, what do we do? What do we do? Get connected at your local level. It starts at the local level and work your way up. Make sure you know who is taking leadership positions, like, for instance, Governor of Texas. You got to make sure you have someone really, really good and solid, a solid conservative in the seat.
Primaries.
So.
Exactly. And prison ain't supposed to be a recreational fun time either.
Fair.
I mean, what I wanted to say after your point, I just asked God to put flaming swords across, my lips, because I have some pretty strong thoughts on all of it.
Well, yeah, that's
I do.
I sure do. All right, we've got more to come, including the Johnson & Johnson vaccine being suspended. First, we want to thank our sponsor, Gabby. All right, so if you are, everyone's looking to pinch pennies right now. I know COVID-19, all the lockdowns, it did a number on all of us. So if you are looking to make sure that you have the best deal when it comes to your car insurance or your home insurance, you got to go to Gabby, okay? They literally stand for Get a Better Insurance. With Gabby, you can go, log on. It's very easy. You put your current coverage, whatever it is, car or home, you put your current coverage in and they will give you an apples to apples comparison of your current coverage with 40 of the top insurance providers. There's Progressive, there's Nationwide, there's Travelers. They are all in the same spot, all right? It will take just minutes and you will not only be able to see quotes for the exact same coverage, you will also see, they will tell you, Gabby's not trying to sell you anything, so they'll tell you if you have the best coverage already, they will say, you don't need to change. You've already got the best deal possible. It's totally free to use. Okay, so Gabby customers save $961 per year on average. They're not going to sell your info. You got to go to Gabby.com/Y. It only takes a few minutes. It is GABI.com/Y. Back in a minute. The federal government is recommending the immediate suspension of the Johnson & Johnson COVID-19 vaccine over blood clotting problems. Medical experts believe that the vaccine was the cause of them. Now, here's a tweet from the FDA. Today, FDA and CDC Gov issued a statement regarding the Johnson & Johnson COVID-19 vaccine. We are recommending a pause in the use of this vaccine out of an abundance of caution. Now, if you read the headlines, it was very much like, well, there were 6 people. It's extremely rare, but they're just going to go ahead and pause it anyway. And if you follow these government agencies, at least the way that I do, you know that if they're admitting to 6 of them, there were actually far more that they would not like to talk about. There were far more issues with this vaccine because I don't know the CDC or the FDA to say, 6 people, okay, pull it. I mean, that would mean all vaccines would be pulled because there are people who get adverse reactions to every vaccine. So here we are, and I guess the science is not settled because I keep getting told whenever I question, hey guys, this is just for emergency authorization only. It's not actually approved by the FDC or by the FDA. I think I'm just gonna wait. And I get called a conspiracy theorist. I get called all of these things because the science is settled. I guess it's not.
They're still calling it a vaccine trial.
Right.
Anytime you throw that word in there, it's like, how about I not be the one you try it on?
You guys are the guinea pigs, in case you haven't figured that out.
And I'm not a I told you so kind of person, but we did. And a person died. I want to know what color that person was. Because maybe Johnson & Johnson is racist and should be held accountable, just like the police are. I mean, if a person,
anytime anyone dies,
if a life matters, then I need to know. Because, but again, we sweep that kind of stuff under the rug. No, that was a vaccine in the name of health, right? We were doing all that kind of stuff. Forget that a person died in Minnesota in the name of law enforcement. That matters. But if this person died, and we just sweep that under the rug. Keep getting your vaccines, people. Just keep on getting them. Keep pumping that crap into yourself. It's garbage, man. I mean, what is wrong with people?
Well, look, I mean, you just look at CDC's surveillance page on adverse reactions.
Yes.
So that alone, they're admitting to over 2,200 deaths and tens of thousands of adverse reactions.
Yep.
And we know the reporting on that, it's so underreported.
Yeah.
If they counted vaccine deaths or illnesses like the way they did COVID deaths, I mean, dude, there would be tens of thousands of them. That's the bottom line. But what's truly indefensible is when you juxtapose how they dove head first into an experimental vaccine by their own legal distinction after having failed with SARS-1, and it didn't work out too well for those mammals that were tested with it. They got autoimmune diseases and pretty nasty stuff from it. Maybe they fixed it. I don't know. But this is short term. What about long term of effects. We don't know that yet, but you juxtapose that to hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin that were around since the 70s, 4 billion doses disposed, okay?
Yeah.
The safest thing, I mean, I read out on my show the Nobel Assembly's statement on ivermectin and the guy who used it for river blindness, and like, this is the safest thing around, you know, this is unbelievable, cured everyone, and this thing is anti-inflammatory, antiviral, it stops it in its tracks, it works at every phase. I just wrote about a case of a state judge in New York mandating that a guy on a ventilator be allowed to try it, and he, is cured right away.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's 100%, but yeah. Oh yeah, right away. But then they didn't want.
And you had states banning it.
And they didn't want to give him more. They didn't want to give him more. There's just one dose. He was off the ventilator. Like, no, like let him recover quicker. No, that's we don't know. We haven't studied this. Well, there's 50 studies and 26 randomized controlled trials. Yeah, but they're kind of outside the country, small sample size. The juxtaposition is amazing, but I think what we see from the science, the political science that we're following is, look, how much money, who's going to make money off of that stuff?
Right.
No kidding.
Yeah.
And the more you see more come out about the vaccines, about how long they last, they're like, well, you may need a shot every 6 months. I don't know. Maybe you do. And it's like, oh, gee, I wonder who stands to profit from that.
You've got a 99% recovery rate on this thing, right?
Yes.
And then you're going to go stick some kind of syrup in your body that is no telling what. You're going to wake up in 15 years and look in the mirror and your face is falling off. You don't know what this thing is going to do.
But it's 100% for kids.
Yeah.
And now they're
amazing.
See, this to me is the biggest story of the day. The biggest story of the day.
Tell us.
Wherever you stand on this issue, how in the world could you come away from today's news and continue diving headfirst like Pfizer is into giving it to kids?
Yeah.
Why?
Testing it on infants.
Why? Yeah. What is the reason?
Well, Fauci comes out and says even if you've been vaccinated, you still don't need to eat dinner indoors. I mean, this is why are we so stupid? Why are we this way?
It is a great.
I mean, what do you really have to live for that's that important that you're just going to just take your brain and throw it on the floor and be like, screw it, I'm going to do whatever this quack tells me to do?
Did you guys see that viral video of the woman? I assumed that it was in California. I don't actually know where it was. She was eating outside, totally outside, and she had her mask on and literally was removing it to take a bite and then replacing it and putting it back on her mouth after every bite.
I would love to culture that mask to see what's on it.
I know, right?
No kidding.
Nasty.
No kidding. And then you have Brian Stelter, who we talked about yesterday, who's like, well, why didn't Fox News hosts share their vaccine selfies? And then you have Michelle Obama, Matthew McConaughey, Fauci, of course, and a bunch of others who are teaming up for an NBC. I
you can't make
honestly
this,
can't. You
this
can't.
life parodying
I can't
itself.
Freaking believe this is the world that we're living in. I just brought another kid into this world, and I'm like, what the hell am I bringing this child into?
So they can wear a mask
vaccination special. Yeah.
In 2 years, that face is going to be covered.
Oh, absolutely, it is not going to be covered. Over my dead body, it's going to be covered. So it's called Roll Up Your Sleeves. And it's a bid, of course, to raise awareness and encourage Americans to get vaccinated against COVID-19. I mean, the quickest way to get people to question what you're saying is to continue forcing it down their throats without letting them ask a simple question about it. That's what I don't get. It's like, do you guys think that Michelle Obama, Matthew McConaughey, and Dr. Fauci starting a television special to tell everyone to get vaccinated is actually going to help people get vaccinated? Because I'm like, why are you guys pushing this so hard?
Did you guys see the YouGov poll on 54% of those who were vaccinated are scared of contracting the virus, but only 28% of those who didn't get the vaccine are scared of the virus.
So I saw, where was that yesterday? They were talking about, they asked Buttigieg, they asked Secretary Buttigieg about, they said, why is it, they said, talking about his Christian faith, and they said, as we chuckle, and they said, why is it that white evangelicals in the U.S., 33% of them say they will never get the vaccine? And they were asking him, why do you think that is? Do you think, evangelical leaders need to step up and encourage their congregants to go and their parishioners to get these vaccines and stuff like this. So now it's edging over into, why are people of faith not doing this kind of thing? Well, the beauty of being a person of faith is you believe in a God that can heal you, for one thing. That you
the immune system that God gave you?
You got an immune system. You're fearfully and wonderfully made. You've got this ability to heal yourself, but you're going to pump this stuff into your body that it's only effective 60% of the time in the best prognosis. So the whole insanity of this deal is maybe we're got a little bit of common sense up there that says, I'm just not going to do it.
Yeah.
Whatever happened to the hospitals being overrun?
Exactly.
I thought
great question. Well, that's why we started this, right? 15 days.
The hospitals being overrun.
Yeah, we didn't want to do that whole thing. Listen, in 2018, I parodied Beto O'Rourke when he got his flu shot, right? He he rolled up his sleeve. So I went and got a flu shot, and man, I put it on social media a little bit. People lost their friggin' minds. What are you doing? Can't believe you're doing this. Why would you put that poison? You're putting mercury in you're doing blah, 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 blah. Those same people, like sheep, are lining up right now waiting to get this vaccine.
That's a great point. Which, by the way, I think that we should make sure to say, if that's what you choose after you have reviewed the cost-benefit analysis, the risk assessment, great, do it. But just don't try to force it on everyone else who may not agree with you.
I don't care if you wear a mask. Just don't try to force me to do it.
Exactly. Yeah, the mask works so well, so wear it.
Right, exactly.
Why do you need me to wear it?
Yeah, exactly. All right, we've got to take a break, but first we want to thank our sponsor. So protecting your family, I'm sure, safely is your number one priority, like it is mine. So Taser believes that safer self-defense is better self-defense. Taser has a line of non-lethal self-protection devices. They are small and lightweight enough to carry with you in your glove compartment, in your purse is where I have mine, and it is powerful enough, let me just tell you, to incapacitate an attacker. I had a conference call with them, and we were talking about how powerful it was, and you can hold it and then hold it again, and I was like,
it's powerful. Just ask Party Foul Steve.
Did he use it?
I used it.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
Anyway.
Oh, no.
Better that than the gun, yeah.
Well, here's the thing, is that there are a lot of states right now that I know some of you are living in, unfortunately, and these states aren't allowing you to carry where you want to carry, to make sure to be armed so that you can protect yourself.
Unless you have a criminal record, then you can carry it.
Yeah, right. And then you can get let out of jail, and you can get free stuff, and well, we won't get into that. But you want to make sure, especially if you are in one of those locations, at least carry a taser to protect yourself. You do not want to be left just totally fending for yourself, especially, as Daniel pointed out, when criminals are being let out of the jails, out of the prisons, onto the streets where you live. All right. For a limited time, take advantage of Taser's best offer available. You're going to save $60 on the Pulse Plus bundle. It is a Taser Plus device, cartridges, and holster at taser.com. $60 off right now by using the code Y, that's WHY, at taser.com. That is, of course, TASER.com, promo code Y. Back in a minute. Here's a story that I think is going largely underreported in the mainstream media, but I think kind of matters. Now, it is in South Carolina. South Carolina Governor Henry McMaster issued an executive order yesterday prohibiting the Biden administration from sending unaccompanied, they call them unaccompanied migrant children. They're illegal children into his state's foster homes, and care facilities. So he put a stop to the Biden administration sending these children to the state facilities, to the foster homes. Now, I actually, when I was looking into this, shout out to my mother who called me this morning and was like, "You will not believe the story I just heard. You really should consider putting this on your show." And I went and I looked at it, and you could only find in the fine print the actual reason why. So, of course, they're like, well, the state has a drain on all of these resources anyway. It's really hard already. We don't want to put added stress onto the system. But when you look at the fine print, it was found that the federal government was offering a board rate approximately 3 times the state paid board rate. So that would benefit providers. They would have an additional incentive to take in the illegal children rather than the children who are actually citizens and state residents. So the governor put a stop to that. But I was just like, I truly can't believe that I am living in these times where this is just, it's just happening all over the place. It's just happening, and nobody seems to be concerned about it. I mean, except for you guys, right? But nobody seems to be concerned about it, or like, hey, maybe this is kind of a precedent we should not be setting. Maybe we should take care of our own, not just American citizens, foster children. Foster children. Chad.
Yeah. Well, we can't say anything about this because we're evil white people with scarred and sinful past. I mean, we've already historically been so mean to the brown people.
So mean.
You know, and I don't mean to make light of slavery and those kind of, but see, that's the mindset we've bought into right now. It's one of the biggest lies that's killing America, is that we are guilty and we therefore need to make our penance well known in public by taking care of this new round of brown people that are coming to America. They're coming in 1,000 a day. They're coming across the border, untouched by any official, right? This isn't the ones who are just coming and turning themselves in and getting a hotel room and a plane ticket anywhere in the country. This is 1,000 a day at the southern border who are coming across that are not being touched by any officials. And a friend of mine has a ranch in North Mexico. He was coming through the border the other day. He called me. He said, "You wouldn't believe this. All lanes are open and they're waving people through."
Yep.
No.
He said they're not even checking. They're not even checking, just waving people through.
Yep.
This is what's going on at the southern border. So, our guilt. I mean, we can't say anything about this, right? Because we have to atone for our sins of the past. Shut it down, shut it down, shut it down. You got to shut it down. Texans, I'm telling you, as a Texan, we got to build that wall.
Yeah.
We got to stop this thing. Yes, we do need to stop sending billions of dollars to Honduras, El Salvador, and Guatemala every year because they're corrupt democracies, and those people are not. There's a reason they're leaving their countries. There's a reason they're coming here. We've got to shut that down. We've got to hold these governments accountable because we're the ones footing the bill there and here.
And the answer, as always, is in the states. I mean, so you mentioned the South Carolina Governor McMaster. Everyone thinks it's all over. Republicans lost the election. Democrats have control of the trifecta in Washington. Bottom line is Republicans have 23 trifectas.
Right.
They have 19 supermajorities. They have 31 state legislatures. Okay, this needs to be dealt with at a state level. Yes. So you just got to say no. Texas is the biggest one. This is why we need Chad to run for governor, because, the bottom line is there is a bill by Representative Brian Slayton to build the wall. Texas owns the land. Okay, the busiest sectors right now, from Del Rio to the RGV, they're in Texas. So just because Trump's not president anymore doesn't mean that wall can't be built. They could crowdsource it. People would donate money. The Republican committee chairs in the House of Representatives in Texas, they're blocking it. They are blocking it. The governor's not lifting a hand. Lieutenant governor's not lifting a hand to do it. I don't understand. It would force an inflection moment in this country if you had a state build the wall. Yeah. But, this is what Republicans do with the power they have.
And I get online, I say this, and people say, well, you don't have the right to do that. Sit back and watch. Sit back and watch. It will get done. The materials are there. They're sitting on the ground with construction workers sitting on top of them. And Joe Biden's such a racist. I mean, he's wanting to build the wall now. I mean, this guy, he's like, we got to fill in the gaps and build the wall. He said, we got to make America better, which sounds to me like make America great again. We got to build it back better. I mean, this is it's semantics, people. Hell yeah, we're going to build a wall. I'll use Beto's words. Hell yeah, we're going to build a wall.
But I was also very shocked about how much of a religion illegal immigration is in their totem pole. Yeah. See, I thought COVID trumps everything. And I thought this was the one thing that would finally tamp that down. But you got to give these guys credit. Like, they don't miss the all-you-can-eat buffet. Like, they're going to have their cake and eat it, too. 100%. So, like, they continued the refugee resettlement. I mean, what's the biggest human spreader? International migration. Because each area seems to have its own epidemiological curve. But if you start bringing in from other areas, I mean, if that is your concern, that's not so much our concern, but they're obsessed with that. Hey, whatever happened to super spreading events?
Right. Yeah. And you're right, Dan. And that brings another point to mind. We're already racists, right? Yeah. So screw it. Let's go out there and do what the hell we got to do and get the problem taken care of. You're going to be a racist no matter what the hell you do. So listen, conservatives, stop being scared of being called a white supremacist or a nationalist or America first and hateful and racist. Screw it, you already are.
There's no gas left in the tank.
It's done. So now let's go out and do what's right.
That's so true. All right, we've got more to come, but let me take a quick break. Be right back. All right, I just want to bring your attention to this, you guys. I just saw this come through my news feed. So Florida has reported the only single-digit increase in virus deaths, COVID-19 related deaths, for the first time in almost 7 months. Over the past 2 weeks, daily reported COVID deaths across the state have ranged between 22 and 98, and the week-to-week reported deaths have been on a slow decline since January. Just 5 new coronavirus deaths in Florida were reported September 28th. Okay, well, this is new, April 13th. There we go. So it's interesting because we're told by CNN, MSNBC, that not just Florida, but Texas, where else? Mississippi, I believe they rolled back the restrictions, Arkansas, that we are all super spreaders. We're all going to die. We're all killing grandma.
Neanderthals.
Yes, Neanderthal thinking. We see Dr. Fauci go on television and tell people, well, I mean, just give it a few more weeks. Okay, it's been a month. Give it a few more weeks. And then we'll see the spikes that we obviously know that we're going to see. Florida seems to be doing okay. Daniel, I have a feeling that you may have something to say about that.
Yeah, I mean, well, maybe the mask, they did have masks like last year, so they worked so well last year that they imbued in the body. But here's the problem, like you could chart it on a graph. The Neanderthals go like this, and New Jersey, New York, and Michigan go like this.
There's something to that.
Here's the bottom line. We've looked at this every which way, up and down and inside out, and 50 meta-analysis. There has never been a correlation shown between NPIs, non-pharmaceutical interventions, and outcomes. I have a novel idea. If you have a virus and like a medical problem, you might want pharmaceutical interventions like ivermectin and vitamin D and things like that, not non-pharmaceutical interventions that have nothing to do with it. The rain dance, the moon dance. Nowhere has this been done. Has it shown any correlation? The only correlation is this. You take any part of the world, you take any part of the country. They have the exact same seasonal geographical curve wherever they are, regardless of what they did. We have 13 months of this. And yet still, every time there's a case, it must be because someone wasn't wearing a mask. There's no other way. I mean, in LA, like, you know, masks work so well that they don't work.
Masks work so well that they see that spike as soon as everyone
maybe if you quit
masks.
breathing your own filth, your body might be a little bit healthier to heal itself and to fight off some things that aren't supposed to be in your body. Maybe a little warmer weather down in Florida could be helping things. But everybody said
no. But Fauci said, you know what? It must be in Texas. They're doing stuff outside.
Yeah.
What? So they're doing less inside than New Jersey and New York, where it's spreading? Oh, and by the way, now that you admitted outside is not a problem, could you call off the dogs and the Karens on us outside and kids playing vigorous, ball games and recess and even, college sports outside with masks?
I just drink I just drink my antibacterial stuff every day.
Oh, I got really nervous when you just said I just drank and I did not know where you were going with that.
Well, it's called tequila.
Okay.
Kills everything.
Well, that's okay. That's all right.
Yeah.
All right, you mentioned college sports, Daniel. Let's talk really quickly about the NCAA, who has stated that they unequivocally support transgender athletes participating in women's sports and will pull championships from states that disagree, which, I know we've been talking about, especially with Kristi Noem, who cited that as her reason to kind of waffle on the transgenders in women's sports bill that she previously said that she would fully support. She was looking forward to signing it. Then she said, well, hold on, the NCAA, they're going to do these things in our state. And so the NCAA, of course, I love this, in their statement, they insisted their dedication to including transgender athletes in women's sports is for the purpose of producing, quote, fair competition. So I don't. But the science is really important.
The science says that women are really men and the men are really women. I mean, it's all in the science.
So
it's all. I mean, look, I'm glad they're doing this. I really am glad because they've been doing this forever, but it's been too subtle.
Yeah.
And Chad asked me before why I live in such a god-awful place like Maryland. And I said, look, Texas is better, but is it that much better, especially in the major population centers? And the reason why there is no such thing as a red state in America, and there really isn't, is because of that. Is because until now, they've been so scared of the business interests, the Chamber of Commerce, these type of things. Now, like you always say, Chad, they've made it, you cannot atone. You're always a racist. So they're throwing us out. They're forcing us to do what God has always been telling us to do, is we got to make our own parallel economy, society. Yeah. That's ultimately what we have to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm moving to Mars.
No, we need you in Texas, though.
Populate that place.
No,
I'm not going anywhere. I'm right here. I'm in the center of the universe, right?
Okay.
But you're right. Every metropolitan area, even in Texas, Houston, San Antonio, even Fort Worth now, Dallas, El Paso, they're liberal epicenters. They've become all of those things, and you're right in that regard. But back to the NCAA thing, just let a few skulls get cracked. And that's exactly what's going to happen.
Which has already happened in MMA, so
it's
that's
happened.
not
so
really
I'm
being
sorry.
facetious.
You put a woman up against a man in that regard. Look, the Army already proved it. They just had to change their PT a few weeks ago because their basic training, because the women couldn't pass. The women could not pass. They aren't as strong as the men.
Really?
Believe it or not.
What a hate monger.
Oh, yeah, here's what I want to do. I want to see a transgender woman that identifies as a man. I don't know if I said that right, but I want to see a woman that identifies as a man.
Okay.
Get into powerlifting. Get into powerlifting. Join that sport, okay? If you're a woman, you were born biologically a woman, but you identify as a man, get into powerlifting. Let's see how you do. Let's see how you do. Let's compare it right there.
So let me ask, we've got a little under a minute left.
But get into any sport. You're still going to get your ass kicked.
Well, right. But let me ask, so do you think that all these, the NCAA, all these corporations who are obviously going woke, I was just on Candace Owens' show with the Daily Wire last week.
Name drop.
I mean, kind of, go check it out if you haven't already. But we talked about, will these corporations go broke for going woke? Are conservatives fed up enough that they are going to stop giving them their money, like the NCAA, MLB, and others? What do you think, Daniel, real quick?
The bottom line is this starts, I think, in the red states, where they need to stop subsidizing them. They need to create a parallel market where we could compete, because I think just us boycotting, I don't think that's going to do it. I think we need our own parallel airlines. We need our own parallel sports leagues. We didn't make this fight. We don't want to divide, but by golly, we're forced to.
It's great investment advice. I mean, again, you want to find a business model that works out there, that's controlled by the liberals, and now parallel it out there and create your own deal. That's the way you do it.
Yeah. All right, we got to take a break. Back in a minute.
I mean, they're doing documentaries right now over that girl that kicked the football team.
All right, don't forget, if you have not yet gone to wherever you get your audio podcasts, it's Apple, Stitcher, iHeart, wherever the hell you go, because there's 10 million of them these days. Make sure that you subscribe, rate, and review The News and Why It Matters. It will help more people find it. By the way, while you're there, make sure you also subscribe to the Chad Prather Show and also the Conservative Review with Daniel Horowitz. Okay. Also, are you on YouTube? You're on Twitter.
YouTube? Do you think YouTube would have me on?
You know what? I shouldn't have even asked. That's a definite no.
I'm on Rumble.
That's okay. You're on Rumble. He's on Twitter. Make sure you find him on Twitter. Make sure you check out his podcast, The Conservative Review. This guy as well. And, future governor of Texas. All I'm saying.
Yes, amen.
So
come see me in Austin tomorrow, too.
Yes, please. At the what?
Going to be at Whiskey Tango Foxtrot Ice House, 6th Street. Austin.
Okay.
And then we're going to go crash the party at the Capitol building.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. All right, real quick before we got to go, Gizmo Computer, 5-star review. Love this show. This is the best news show out there. I love Sarah and all her friends and guests. If you are looking for a news show that really gets what's going on, this is it. Thank you for all your hard work. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Gizmo Computer.
I appreciate you.
Oh, I appreciate you. And you as well, Daniel.
Yes, this was so much fun.
Yeah, so glad
we gotta do
you
this
were
more
here.
often.
You got to come down to